Hi, welcome to the Gripe podcast. In this podcast, you learn how to grow member based organizations. I'm your host, Farhad Khan. I'm the CEO of Gripe Digital. We are a digital agency and we help professional associations grow their membership by building membership websites. If you want to grow the membership of your professional association, please take a look at the learning events on our website at gripe.ca/events. That is grype.ca/events. This is a live recording of our podcast episode. So if you're joining us live, welcome. We will take some questions from the audience as well. So if you have any question, please submit them on the chat window on the right, and we will get to them as soon as possible. Today, we are so excited to have Natasha Golinsky with us from On Purpose Projects. And it's a topic that we're talking about today that is very near and dear to my heart because we do this all the time. It is website project planning. Natasha, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you start by telling us a bit about yourself and what you do?
For sure. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and I've run a web agency for 6 or 7 years. And I didn't start out in the technical field, but I learned very quickly that the key to success with websites was to have a very clear plan. And for both parties to know exactly what needs to be done so that we can create realistic timelines, budgets, make sure that we're hiring the right person for the project. And just scoping became the center of our business very, very quickly in order to make sure our clients had a great experience working with us.
That's great. So what are some of the common mistakes people make in planning their website projects, do you think?
I think when I like I was saying to you in the pre-show, I've done hundreds of projects, and what I find the biggest mistake is I have clients all the time who'll call me and they'll say, I want a website, how much? And they give zero information or very vague, very neutral, very generic information and expect the web team or the software team to be able to give a detailed, precise quote that they can stand behind. And I feel that's completely unrealistic. I've told my clients, we absolutely do not quote without a project plan. I draw a really hard line with my own clientele, no plan, no quote. And I teach my clients how to plan their projects so that I make sure that I get the information I need. But I think the biggest mistake that I see is they expect with very, very little details about the project that we are able to create a realistic estimate, which I feel is very naive. And it's very much a garbage in, garbage out sort of approach. So that's where I find is the biggest mistake with my clients. I don't know if your clients are better, but with my clients, that's definitely where it gets tricky. So.
Right. Yeah, something we also find is that some clients will kind of give us more detailed instructions or requirements, but the requirements are not what they need, so
Exactly.
that becomes another challenge. So what would be your approach to planning a project?
For like in the case of a redesign or a from scratch project?
From scratch or redesign, whichever, yeah.
From scratch or a redesign? Generally what we'll do is we'll do a preliminary call where I'll meet the client. Let's imagine, Farhad, you said you're looking for help with redesign. We do a call. First thing I'm going to do is going to make sure that our team has the skills to do what you're looking for. For example, if you're looking for a Drupal site, for example, that might not be something we can help with, but if you're looking for a WordPress site, so immediately I sort of filter, okay, do we even have the skills to do this? And then I sort of get a feel for how organized and how clear the client is. If the client is very, very clear, I get them to send me a scope of work, which I then review. And I get my team, I gather my designers and my developers, and we get together. We review all the notes, prepare a document with any questions, and then we get those questions answered, and then we can scope the project. If in the case that the client is not clear, or there's a lot of confusion, or they don't know, I sort of send them back. For example, in our business, I follow what they call a content first design, where until they have their content, I don't quote for the website because I know the content, how much information per page is going to determine how much design time, which then becomes how much development time, which becomes how much QA time. So if the client is really, really not organized, I actually wrote a course that's on Udemy, and it's about teaching them how to plan their own project. Because I don't know how it works, but I found a lot of my clients did not want to pay me to plan their job. And in my experience, like I've said before, if my client doesn't have a written plan, I won't even quote it. I won't even entertain it. I send them away to create a plan, or else they can pay me to help them plan. But that never usually goes very well. Most people want to use all their money for the website itself. So I send them to my course on Udemy, and it's about how to scope your project. And I take them through what you can need to think about for design, for copy, for development, for functionality, for user experience, all these different things. And then they put together their written plan, and then they come back and I quote. So that's really my approach, is I expect my clients to be an equal partner in the project. Because I know sometimes clients, they expect me to be a mind reader and just be able to like regurgitate, like, and just give them some information about, oh yeah, $5,000 or $20,000. And I don't do that. I custom price, but unless they can give me all the details, I can't create a quote. And sometimes clients will tell me, oh, give me a ballpark. I don't do that either. I'm just like, no, like, you tell me what you want and I'll give you a price. I'm not going to guess, because I can't stand behind that price. So I'm not going to give you a number that I'm not going to be able to work with, to back up, right? So
Makes sense. So I think like we are doing something similar with our clients as well, but you have like made it a more formal approach. So what we do is we have a workshop process that we like take the client through. So similar to your Udemy course, we have a workshop. So we sit the client in like a few sessions to work with our team, and then kind of like we do a detailed discovery process. And the plan that you would typically like generate through the Udemy course, we like do a bit of a handholding with the client, and we generate the same like project like scope like together. But again,
that's like, even better. That's a better way to do it. I just find a lot of my clients don't want to pay for that. So if they, that's a great. Maybe you can teach me how you do that later. So
for sure. Yeah. So I guess like so we are doing something similar. So you have the Udemy course, we have the workshop, right? Now what we find is that this gives our clients a really good understanding of like what is really needed. So it's like before the how, like we identify the what, what they need like for the project success. But every now and then we see clients who come to us who are just like yours, like who are not willing to actually go through the workshop process, and they will kind of like create an RFP, and the RFP isn't like that great, but they force us to actually respond to the RFP. So what are your thoughts, like like the workshop process, the discovery process versus RFPs?
I personally do never work with an RFP, never. I personally find an RFP is always missing information. It will always give a lot of information about the goals of the site and the brand and the mission and the vision, but most project managers, most people who are in charge of a website, like the marketing manager, have no idea what we need to scope properly. And I've reviewed 100 RFPs and none of them ever give me enough to quote, in my experience. So I personally, like, that was part of my marketing work before, but years ago I just gave up. I just couldn't quote, because I know with an RFP, they're looking for a detailed price. They're looking for a breakdown. They're looking for a deliverable schedule and a fixed price. And I just never felt comfortable, because in all integrity, I couldn't be sure I could back that price without having more information. And to me, transparency is a huge value in my business, that it's like, I like to prepare an estimate that's broken down so they can see where the money's going. Because like you, our websites usually start at 5 figures. Like I haven't done a website in years that came in at less than, a 5-figure price tag. And, but the way that I like to explain that is I show my client what is everything, every little piece. And I just found with an RFP, I was quoting blind, and I never felt comfortable to be able to put my name on that price. Because if I got hired, let's say that I quoted at $35,000 and I get the job, and then so, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you, like now I have to I have to quote again, and it became this huge nightmare. So I love your discovery process. I think that's fantastic, because I think the most, like, a really, really crucial part of the website success process is that myself and my client, we're a team. We're a team. We're working together. I am not a hired help. I am not a hired gun. I am not a miracle worker. I am not a mind reader. I am the tech talent to make your idea real. But you are responsible for organizing your idea. It's not my job to plan your job. Like, I can help you and guide you and give you technical input, because like you, Farhad, like sometimes clients will come to me and they're like, we need this. I'm like, no, you don't need that. Like, we're not going to do that. That doesn't make sense. That's a way more expensive way to do that. Or for your, sometimes we'll have clients who call us and like, oh, we want to host with AWS. And you're like, why? Why do you want to do that? You're just kind of, anyway, so we kind of coach our clients, but I really expect my clientele to meet me in the middle, and we're a team and we work together. And if they're not willing to work together and they just want me to work with scraps, I just won't take that client. I'm not interested in someone who's not collaborative and respects the process.
Right. Sorry. And what we also find is that in the RFP process, it's so robotic. Like
For sure. It's so arbitrary.
you're not able to like talk to our team. You're not able to do this. You cannot
No,
like do
exactly.
that, right? So so I feel like when you're like hiring a person, do you hire the resume or do you hire the person?
Exactly.
You never hired the resume. You hired the person, right?
Exactly.
So like going through an RFP process is more like hiring the resume, the submission and paperwork and whatnot, without knowing the full team, having so yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So
I agree. I feel it's very short-sighted. I feel the RFP system is an antiquated, unrealistic. I just think it's so dangerous, personally. Like, I think you have to, like, reading a number, there's so much more. Like, that's the thing that people don't understand as well about websites, is it's not just the tech, it's the experience of this process. So it's like, especially for like you and I both do really large scale projects. Like I said, we start at 5 figures, right? And if you don't like each other, it's a nightmare. Like, so I feel like you have to meet and see, do we have personal synergy? Because if I meet someone and I'm getting a bad vibe, that's as much a part of the decision maker as the price to me. That the client could have this huge budget, but if I don't like that client, I'm going to say no, or, like there's so many other variables that you need to think about that's going to help determine whether the project's a success or not, rather than just the price and the deliverable schedule, right? There's so many more things you need to think about. So.
Yeah, and oftentimes what we find is that our clients, as much as we want our clients to kind of like do the work on their own in terms of like scoping and everything else, not many of our clients actually have the technical expertise or the marketing background to be able to like do this on their own. Hence we have our workshop process. But like, given that if some clients are non-techie, right, and they need a lot of help, how would you divide the responsibility of scoping between the client and you? So what part is the client's role?
That's a great question. And because I would say 99.99% of my clients have zero technical experience. Because we work, like you, we work with a lot of marketing managers, founders, decision makers who have a great vision, but don't have the technical ability, which is why they're bringing us in. So for me as the project manager, as the team leader, I have to understand, my client is not going to know what I'm talking about. If I start talking about API integrations and DNS, reassignment, they're going to have no idea what I'm talking about. And I know that. So I sort of come in as a coach and an educator. And to me, my role, I feel, is really about, I like to work with informed consumers. So I want them to know what they're buying and why this matters and why, so I really take the time to educate my client. And like I was saying before, I expect my client to show an interest in what I'm teaching them, because you and I both work in the digital space, that it's so cliche that someone feels that they got ripped off, or they feel like someone sold them something they didn't need, or it was too expensive, or scope creep. And so I really like to take the time to explain to my client, okay, I don't need to give them all the tech, but I like to give them enough that they can make an informed decision on their own, so that it doesn't sort of come back to us in terms of being blamed that they didn't have the information, or they sold something they didn't need and all that. And especially working with membership sites, that's a very technical thing. So I would explain, okay, we have option A, option B, option C. This is how it works. This is the pros and the cons. And I would make sure they understand exactly what they're buying. But in terms of scoping, I like to teach my client, again, not the full details, but I like to explain how it works. So for example, like with hosting, I like to explain to clients about hosting. Okay, what are different types of hosting? How does that work? And I have these videos that I send to my client. Okay, this is how, for example, like membership sites, this is how it works. These are different functionality options. This is why this matters. This is why this doesn't matter. So that they can, again, they don't have to know the tech, but they can kind of come into it feeling a sense of confidence that they know how it works. I try to make my client do 90% of the heavy lifting, honestly. Like I try to, because I know that when they feel empowered and they know how it works, they're going to trust me more. They're going to not just take my word for it. And I like to explain, I'm here to bring your vision to reality. Like I'm here as the tech person or the tech team to make it happen. But ultimately what you know better, what your clients need and what you want, more than I do, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but like I teach them how to make their own choices about design, about development, about copywriting, about does that, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's sort of how I do it in terms of who does what. But
I think that's great. That's great for sure. So you're giving them all the information that they need to kind of like make informed choices. And if you
exactly.
give them like your structure, from the Udemy course, then they will know that like this is what we kind of have to work on. And they are the ones who kind of have to do the work. They can ask you questions, right? But they're the ones who have to like fill in the scope document.
Exactly. They've got to fill it all in. And I sometimes I laugh with my clients. They're like, non-tech people need a glossary about how does this work and what is a domain registrar versus your host versus your SSL certification versus your CMS versus your, and I like to explain to them, like, so when they come in, because what I find, because we work really high ticket, right? And I know that I have to earn that because like in the web development world, it's so easy to find people $20, $30, $50, $60 an hour. Like that's a dime a dozen. There's a million people who do that. And so for us, we come in higher than that. But I find that the key to being able to have a fantastic client service provider relationship is very, very high trust. Like I have to, and I do not, and again, because of the nature of our industry, I don't know if you feel like this, but this is how I feel. So I feel that there's been so much damage done by service providers who don't take the time to educate and explain how price breakdown works. Like I have a module in my course about like, how much should you expect to pay for a website? And if you want a quality website that's less than $5,000, beware. Like, I mean, let's say a service provider from North America. I mean, if you send it to Pakistan, obviously that's different. But let's say, for example, you want to hire someone from North America and they're quoting you a custom designed and developed mobile responsive browser tested website for less than $5,000, you should be skeptical. Like that's not, it's either not going to work well or it's not going to look good, like something. So I teach them, okay, how does the pricing work? What's behind the curtain? And when I kind of take the time to explain all the moving parts of what do you need to know to shop for someone, to hire someone, it creates trust, right? That I'm not hiding information. I'm not putting them in a position where they have to just blindly trust me and hope that works. And I just really find that there's a lot better collaboration when my client knows what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, as opposed to them just writing a check and like hoping for the best, right? That it all works out. And I find as well during that planning scoping process, it's sort of like a dating experience where I can kind of get to know my client. And because sometimes during the scoping process, I find this client's really demanding and I'm not interested. And I can kind of like, I'm not committed to the project at that point. And vice versa. They can say, maybe they don't like me. Right? Maybe they don't like my workflow, or maybe this client is super disorganized and I don't like clients that are disorganized. So during the scoping process, I can kind of see who they are, right? And if they're not a good fit, then I never have to, it just sort of minimizes damage control. We can kind of meet each other and get to know each other. So for me, I set that up very intentionally so I can kind of filter out clients that aren't going to be the best fit. So
Right. So you mentioned that you typically work on like high ticket projects with larger organizations, and it's a very similar scenario with us. And I find that like for organizations like this, we often work with multiple stakeholders, right? So and as a result, like you have like multiple bosses, and some are busy, some are less busy. So what are some key project roles that you think the clients should fill in the project?
This is, for those of you on this call, this is the most important piece of the puzzle. This is it. Like Farhad's laughing because he knows it's true. This is it. Okay, I'm gonna preach a little bit. Okay, Farhad. So just I have, when I take a project, because we do the same thing. We work with a lot of teams. Like we've got the manager and the PR person and maybe they have an in-house web guy and all that. I tell my clients we work with one person. One. I don't care if there's 7 of you. One. You decide who that one is. I don't care who it is. Marketing manager, IT manager, communications director, IT, whatever. One. I will not talk to more than one person because too many cooks in the kitchen creates chaos. Because what used to happen before I draw a really hard line is because there's this one project we're working on right now and everyone's emailing me information. And I told them in the beginning, we work with one. So every time I get these emails, I reply, please talk to Krista. Please talk to Krista. All edits go to Krista. All edits go. And I don't even take the email. No. And so Krista, let's say the marketing manager, she now has to coordinate with everybody else, but I teach her how to do her job. She doesn't know how to run a team, but I teach her, this is how you get the edits. This is how you communicate information to me. This is the tool you use to organize your notes. This is how you tell someone. This is how you enforce deadlines. This, like I teach her, it sounds funny, but like I teach her how to do her job. But yeah, no, teams are difficult unless you have a point person. And this is like, if you don't have one person organizing on their end, the job for sure could come in at twice the price. For sure. Because conflicting information. We said we want that button blue. Actually, no, we want it green. No, we said yellow. And all of a sudden the developer is changing it blue, green, yellow. And then the CEO comes in, no, we decided on red. And now you have to. So I actually wrote a clause into my contract. I don't know if you guys do this, but I wrote a clause into my contract. If I receive information from the contact person and conflicting information comes in and we make that change and has to be undone, that is billable. Lack of communication on your end, billable. Because it's just, I won't stand for it. I'm like, one person. I just draw a really hard line because it creates chaos and then they don't understand why their job is over budget. And it's like, well, we were working in a circle while you guys didn't know what you were doing. So no, that's hard line on one point of contact. So.
Yeah, I find that very interesting. Like, in our case, I guess we do focus on having like one key point person, like one project manager from the client's organization, but we can't always avoid like speaking to multiple team members on their end because just like the nature of our project, So, for example, for a membership website, the membership manager, marketing person, like maybe a CFO, like they are all stakeholders. They will actually have something to say, and they are taking part in part of the project that we're building. For example, like financial reporting for the membership like portal, like the financial reporting has to go through the finance person. So things like that. But what we try to do is that like, even though that happens, we have like one key project manager or project coordinator on their end who funnels everything.
100%. Me too. 100%. Like that CFO talks to my person. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It just gets out of hand. It gets out of hand and so confusing. And that's honestly, like, I think, like, we used to do a lot of small business websites where you're dealing with a founder, there's one person. And as we evolved into corporate level work, that is now my biggest job, is herding all those cats and like teaching my client how to do their job. And because they don't know, like tech is a whole different thing, right? Like with websites, there's so many moving parts. Like you say, you got the front end, you got the back end, you got your payments, and you've got your registration, and you've got your, like, there's so many layers of functionality that it has to work, especially with membership sites. Like the functionality is like, it's humongous, all the layers of options with a membership site. And oh my goodness, that team management, herding cats is like the biggest price variable in my experience. I don't know about you, but for me, the biggest thing that's going to affect price is how well they organize their information on their end. The communication. Right. Yeah. Internally, how they manage their communication.
In terms of the roles, like something else I find on our end is that whenever we are working on any particular feature or something, of course, we need to talk to the project manager. But like when we are discussing the requirement, maybe the project manager will actually have to like talk to multiple team members on their end, right?
Yeah.
But then like once the feature is done and delivered to the project manager, they have to test it too, right? So then there's the like the area of like user acceptance testing. They have to do some testing on their end, so they have to set aside budget for that.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of like scope that with your clients? How much time should they commit to? Yeah.
Like testing and QA?
Testing and QA.
See, this is another thing. This is what I figured out in the scoping process. If I have a client who's a little bit of a scatterbrain, I charge more for testing and QA, knowing that they're not going to be organized. And so, but if this client is organized and precise and they know what they're doing, then usually with QA, we usually add on 10%. So let's imagine a job is 20,000. I'll add 10% testing, final edits, QA. And also QA QA becomes harder if the client is indecisive. So I think that's another thing in terms of scoping, is that having an internal agreement about how many rounds of revisions we're going to allow. Because, for example, like if you're working on a fixed price job, we say, okay, like once we've built this website and it's live, it goes through an internal QA process on our end where we browser test it, we make sure it's responsive, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, we test it, we have test users, test sandbox, payment account. So we, on our end internally, before it goes to the client, we run it through this really thorough QA process. But then once the client gets it, there's always something that was missed, or they want differently, or can you put the button here instead of here, or like whatever it is, there's always a process of fixing, right? But we tell our client, like, one round of edits is approved, more than one round of edits, billable hourly. So you better make sure everyone's notes are in with this round, like as much as possible. Like, and sometimes it's unavoidable, but we tell our clients, okay, talk to you, talk to your team, talk to everybody, get everybody to test this, everybody, and then get the notes in. Our point of contact reviews all those notes so that they're not conflicting. And then they send us those final round of notes, but we do it in one shot so that it just doesn't drag out over, like drag. But yeah, QA testing final edits, I budget 10% of my project budget for that.
Right. Yeah, we actually advise our clients to kind of like set aside a good chunk of their time for their own testing as well, right?
Definitely.
And like particularly with one client that we have, what we find is that we are testing one key membership piece or key membership feature where setting up the whole environment, the condition to simulate that one user, like in that one condition is the whole work. And then testing is just like one click of a button. But setting up the environment for the testing is a lot of work itself.
Oh, for sure. It could be 100 hours of labor to build it and then 5 minutes to test it, for sure. But yeah, we always check as well, especially with membership sites. We budget time for checking as the admin and then checking as the user. So pretending you're the registrant, like you're the association member or whatever, and you're testing it, and then also you as the admin managing it, approving it. So we get them to test from both sides. But oh yeah, for sure. Final testing can be, and this is again where I find where me as the project manager, I need to be so good about drawing a hard line, because final edits can go on for months if you don't put that line. Like, you guys get one shot at that. Like, because once they've seen, because I don't know how we work in 2 phases. We do a design phase and then a dev phase. So once it's built from the approved mockups, we tell them, like, look, once it's built, this is what you approved. We'll do one round of changes, and we're not going to not help after that. It's just that it's billable hourly, so that they're more conscious of not letting it go on and on and on and on, right? Like, just, So no, but it's so important, especially in today's, like, people misunderstand. I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but I think a lot of our clients don't understand how complex it is to build a website, because different browsers show the website differently, different devices. Like, you have an iPhone versus an Android device, and a tablet versus an iPad versus a 14-inch laptop versus an 18-inch widescreen desktop device versus it just, as developers, we have to check it on all those resolutions and devices and browsers, and it's ridiculous. I just think the whole world should get together in one browser. But clients don't understand that, right? So that's part of the education process. Is like, look, this QA process, we are going to test this whole thing on Chrome, and then we're going to test the whole thing on Safari, and then we're going to test the whole thing on Firefox, and then we're going to put it on an Android device, and then we're going to put it on an iPhone, and then we're going to test it on a laptop, and then we're going to test it, like, whether we're using a simulation tool or doing manual testing. We explain, like, this is not a drag and drop and hope it works. This is like, QA is the make or break of your website, right? QA includes speed optimization for us as well. Like, okay, we build it, and then we make sure, let's browser test, let's speed test it, right? And QA is a huge deal.
Right. So in order to like make a project successful, we really have to like put some key boundaries in the project, right? So in terms of the scope, the time and duration and whatnot. So what are some key boundaries that like you would look at?
This is really good. So we tell our client, whenever we set up a deliverable schedule, I put clauses on it. I'm like, I can hit this deadline if You respond to emails within 24 hours. I set really clear communication boundaries. We can have this built by February 1st, assuming design is approved by January 1st. So I really put the onus on my client, because what happens a lot of times, especially in teams, especially in organizations, is revisions and feedback drags out. I don't know if this happens for you, but this happens for me. So it's like I never give a deadline without putting on a clause. Like, yes, I can have this by Friday if you get me all these images and this content and this by Tuesday, end of day, Pacific time. If it's by Wednesday, Monday. Like I don't stand by my timeline if they don't stand by their timeline. So that's one thing is really big. I put, again, communication. Sometimes clients will get upset and get frustrated. And I talk to them about their tone. Like, I'm like their mom. I'm like, no, this is not how you communicate. If you're frustrated and angry, you communicate with respect and clear your cache. Right? You're laughing. You know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you who are not developers, it's like what happens a lot of times, and this may have happened to you, is you'll request all these edits and you'll message in the morning and you'll be like, you said that they were done. They're not done. And they'll get upset that these changes are not done. And then it's a browser cache issue. You clear your cache and you see all the edits are done. Cache is the enemy. So before you blame your web team, clear your cache. Right?
Right.
Right.
The mental
cache is the enemy.
I think. Yeah.
Oh, geez, cache is our enemy. Seriously, I hate it so much. But I know it's stupid. But I teach my clients about communication. I teach my clients about how to communicate with tech people, because this one is silly, but it's so important that I make my signs in our contract. I make my clients sign this code of conduct, and it's very difficult to work with me now that I'm talking about this. But I make them explain, like, tech people. You say you do not talk in a vague way. You clearly communicate. So when we're, for example, in design phase, I teach my client how to communicate with me. So if I send the mock-up, I say, okay, you are going to send me specific, like, your feedback. But for example, let's just say we put a header image on it. You can't say, I don't like this header image. You need to say, I don't like this header image because, and I want this, or something like this. Instead, you go to a stock photo website, provide a link to something else that you like. We don't work blind. I don't like this color. That's not an edit. Like, I teach them how to talk to me. Please make this image smaller. That is not an edit. Please make this image smaller by 25%. That's an edit. So I coach them how to do it, because it's like the frustration I find with website work is that working in vagueness is such a waste of time. So they want it fast. Our clients want it fast. They want it done properly, but they just assume we can mind read, right? And so I teach my clients, this is not the Matrix. There is no chip going in my head that tells me what you want. Like, you have to communicate to me what you want, and I can do it. And it just goes faster. But I think it's like, because I do a lot of agency consulting where I have colleagues who bring me in to kind of work with their teams. And I feel like there's a fear for developers to communicate to their client what they need to do their job properly, efficiently, in a time-sensitive way. And I find that my clients, I like to prepare my client, like, how this is going to go if they want this quickly, right? Boundaries about, well, we talked about revision cycles. We've talked about that. I do not, like, I have this full list of exclusions. Like, this project does not include, for example, like, one thing on our team is we do not do sliders or video headers. Like, I refuse to do it. Like, it's just it's a nightmare for development, for performance, for responsiveness. So I tell my clients in advance, this is not included, but it's billable as an add-on. So making it clear to the client from the beginning, okay, what is included, what's not included. So you don't have to have that conversation later about, well, actually, can we set up the station like a slider? See clause 13B, no sliders. But really, I just feel like this is going back to the collaboration. Like, if our clients know that it's a team, I need you, you need me. Like, I can't work without your content. We will stop working until we have these images. Like, and just making it very clear, like, they have as much responsibility of the success of the project as I do. So I feel like a lot of developers, like I know from a lot of my colleagues, like they feel like the success of the project falls solely on their shoulders, but they don't put any onus on their client for sending information late, for not being clear, for not clearly communicating edit requests. And then we're late, we feel bad, the client is mad, we're late, but we're late because they didn't get us their content until 3 weeks after we asked for it repeatedly. So things like that, like it's teamwork. It's yes, I'm the service provider, but you can't build a website without me. And so does that make sense? Like, I guess this is that it's an energy. It's like, because some people come into the project and they feel, okay, my client wants this, I'm going to do it. And they kind of just do whatever they're told without sort of setting any rules for how it's going to work together.
No, I think that's great. That's great. Yeah. So these are some really good boundaries. For our audience, by the way, we are not trying to like paint you as the evil one. We love you, and we want to work with you, right? So we're just trying to like, we're trying to like give you a structure, like for you to be more successful with your web projects.
Sure.
We do this like all the time, so we just want you to be successful and give you a structure.
No, we love you. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to teach you how to make this work. And it just, because what I was just saying is I think a lot of people come in and they just hire the web people thinking the web people are just going to handle it. But we can't handle it without a lot of input from our client. And I think sometimes clients expect a miracle worker. They expect someone to just, you're the web team, why don't you do it? And you're like, you haven't sent me the images you said you told me to use. So it's just kind of like, I think a lot of clients, and maybe your clients are amazing, and I totally believe everyone on this call is amazing, but I feel like a lot of, maybe it's sort of, they just sort of come in and they expect that we can do it without them. And it doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess like another boundary that we draw is that like anything, like any operational task, any data management or anything that the client can do within their own team, they shouldn't be like paying for our time for those, right? Because we are very expensive, right? So
I completely agree.
So yes, anything that they can do on their own, we kind of like push it to them, say that, can you please do this part? And then like we will take care of the tech side.
We're 100%. We're the same. Yeah. If anything that's not efficient for them to pay for, I teach them how to do it themselves. We provide tutorials. Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty. Now, like in terms of membership websites, because that's what we primarily build, or like all of our projects are mostly membership websites. So like, would you scope a membership website project like differently from a regular website, or what are your thoughts?
I think that 90% is going to be the same. Because it still has to be designed. You still need copy, you still need functionality, and you still need pop-ups, and you still need all that regular website stuff. But that membership site add-on, I know it's not an add-on, but it's like 90% of the website will be the same, but now you're adding this membership component. So yes, it's the same, but that 10% is a big piece. There's a lot. And with membership sites, I always tell my clients, you don't have to use all the functions, because sometimes they think there's so many things. Like in membership sites, you can talk to each other, they can document share, they can, and I let them know, okay, pick and choose, right, which functions you need. But definitely, yeah, like I think membership scoping is its own little subtopic. But I think 90% is, like, again, you still need all the other regular website stuff normally.
Right. No, that's great. So in our workshop process, we actually give them like a structure and a table where they can like put in what features they want and like what are the likelihood of their members actually using it, and then like from there they can actually gauge like which feature they should like include, which they should probably postpone for now, so that we are focusing on the most important things at any given point in time.
For sure. Yeah, we do the same. Like we'll say, like, let's just say there's something that's kind of repetitive. So we'll do the first one, and then we'll make a video tutorial about how to do the next one. So we kind of, because I think each organization having someone in-house who knows how to do it is so important. Because in our team, we really like to avoid developer dependency, which is where for them to make something small fix, like they need to bring us in. That's really annoying for them, right? And expensive. So I really like it where the client does know how to do it. if they needed to, as much as possible.
Right. Now, even with a very detailed project plan, what we find is that, like, in our case, so like you, like we like to like scope everything like as much as we can. We have a detailed project plan, and we have like deliverables and whatnot, right? But even with all the things that we wanted to do, right, Murphy's law will happen. New
For sure.
scenarios will come up that we haven't seen, that the client hasn't seen, right?
Yep.
And then I think like, and then the project kind of blows up towards the end, like when we're testing. So how would you deal with surprises like that?
I have an exclusion for that in my contract that says any unforeseen tech problems are billable hourly, and I will explain them to you before we start fixing them. So, for example, I'm just reading this comment from Wendy, but like, so for example, let's just say that you want us to install a plugin or something, and it turns out that this plugin is not compatible with your page builder, and installing this plugin breaks your website. Let's say, not that hopefully that wouldn't happen, but let's imagine that, or a plugin update crashes your payment gateway system. Or I have this exclusion in my contract that says any problems caused by third-party tools, plugins, hosting, domain registrar, themes, like I let them know, like I explained to my client in the beginning, this is in my field of responsibility as a developer, like these are the things. But third-party stuff, themes, plugins, hosting, registrars, that's nothing to do with us. That's its own thing. And if anything related to that goes wrong, I will let my client know what happened and then get their approval for more time to fix it or install a backup or whatever the process is to like fix it. But no, I let them know in advance, like any unforeseen tech problems are billable upon approval. Because you're right, like with tech, there's always something that's going to go wrong, always. And it's not anyone's fault. It could be just as simple as a plugin, like I said, a compatibility issue or some sort of hosting issue. Like I know, for example, certain web hosts don't allow certain plugins. And so, you know, like whatever it is, so you have to undo it and find a new one. But no, definitely I have an exclusion for, because I don't work it into my pricing because sometimes it's not required. And I don't want my client to have to pay for it if they don't need it. But if something does go wrong, again, part of our system is we're very, very clear, like, hey, we installed the plugin and it broke. It's going to take us 5 hours to do the restore, replace the plugin, and reset it back up. Approved, yes or no? Like, so, oh, for sure. It's inevitable. Something's going to go wrong. Guaranteed.
Right. So something also that we do is that for any website project build, right after the website is launched, we kind of like tell the client to have a maintenance plan with us as well, like a maintenance contract, because websites, like they have become like humongous nowadays. There are so many variables in there. They need to be maintained, just like a building. If you have an office building,
like
you need
car,
cleaning, you need
anything.
HVAC maintenance, you need all the maintenance, right? So we tell our client that you have to like sign up with a maintenance contract with us or with someone else, you know, like, so just to make sure that you have that like built into your budget. That's a very good like lead into, I think, Wendy's question. Wendy Kramer is asking, what if a website is already built, but there are things that are actually broken within? There are too many layers that need to change. How would you plan that?
I think it's the same. It's the same. Like in my work, we never do sites from scratch. Like we always come in for a redesign. So basically, Wendy, everything I've been talking about would be the exact same process for a redesign. Exactly the same. Like I would scope it as if it was a new site. It's faster to do a redesign because you have your brand, you have your colors, you have your content in most cases, you have your, you have your domain, you have your hosting. Like it's usually faster to do a redesign, but the process of scoping it is the same. The one caveat about redesign that I hear or I see a lot is a lot of times clients will call me and they'll say, hey, I want to redesign my website. And I was like, okay, well, what is coming and what's going? Because in a redesign, you're always going to add stuff and remove stuff. And they're like, no, we just want it the same. We just want it to look better. That is never true. Never true. So if a client, if you're thinking that, oh yeah, we need to redesign, we would just want it to like, we want it exactly the same, but we just want to update the colors or we want to fix the payment gateway or whatever. Go through the exercise of scoping the job anyway, because no matter what, there's going to be something that changes. Like your team page might be different. You might have more or less people. your services might be different. You might find, like, one thing that we do when we're doing a redesign is we get them to send us their Google Analytics. And so we can see there might be pages on your site you don't even need because nobody even goes to. So you might have pages that nobody ever goes to. Well, why would you pay to have those rebuilt? Like, let's take a strategic approach to this redesign. And so don't rush through it. Even if you think, oh no, it's the same. Yeah, I just want it to look more modern. Stop, go through the scoping process, go to the workshop, and do it right. Take your time. So.
Right. And actually, like, on that note, Wendy, we actually have a workshop that is called Improve Your Website Without Doing a Whole Redesign. That is what the workshop is called, Improve Your Website Without doing a whole redesign. So so please feel free to book a chat with us or with Natasha, like whoever you're comfortable with, and then like we can help you out. Alrighty, good. Natasha, with that, I'll jump into some audience questions that were submitted from before.
I hope nobody thinks I hate them. I love you all. We're trying to help you make your job easier.
Exactly. Yeah. So Jordana Taylor is asking, how do you get buy-in from leadership that thinks your members don't need an engaging website?
I would get feedback from your members.
Right.
Like, we're doing this website right now for this neurology association, and they have, I don't know, like 1,000 members or something, and their website is probably 15 years old. And the leadership team is really like, we don't want to spend money on this. But their users are like, we're trying to find information about this event, but we can't find it on this website. And so it's affecting the registrations, and it's affecting like conference, like finding these white papers and these policies about safety, and no one can find anything. And so the admin's getting all these emails. And so have the members share, this website sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can't use this. This is not helping. Because I feel like anyone who has a website, they have a website for the purpose of serving their community. But if the community is sort of in rebellion, like this website is a disaster, it's not helpful at all, it kind of gives more incentive to fix it. But in that case, some websites don't matter. Like I do a lot of work in the venture capital private equity space. And I know that's totally opposite of nonprofit, but private equity, people don't make decisions based on the website. So most of these people, their websites are 10 years old and look terrible, but it doesn't matter. So just making sure that before you make the pitch to your leadership team that it does matter. Because if it doesn't really matter to your organization's bottom line, then it's going to be hard. But if it does matter, then I would get feedback personally from the users and say, hey, like, you're having a problem navigating and registering, please send me an email saying that you had a problem, like that you kept getting this error message, and like make a case. So that's how I would do that.
Right. I love that, Natasha. And like, I hate to bring up our workshop again and again, but like in our workshops, we have like one piece where we ask our workshop participants to kind of like go out there and interview their audience, interview their members. And we have a structure for the interview. Sure. And like, so right from the very first interview, you start to get feedback from the members, right? And
exactly,
we ask people to do at least 3. And when you have like 3 interviews, you have like a boatload of comments and feedback and whatnot.
Well, that's what we forget, right? Like, people tell me all the time, they're like, I like blue. My clients will tell me, I like a blue website. I like the contact us set up like this. I'm like, it's not about you. It's about your users. Like, it doesn't matter what I like. Well, I mean, it has to matter. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's about your users, right? You might like it like this, but your users like, that's confusing. That makes no sense. Do it their way. I love your approach, Farhad. I love that. That's why we're building a website in the first place, is for our users.
Right. Okay. So I'll go to the next question. It's from Peony Chan. Peony is asking, what are some important questions I should ask the developers, I guess, to vet them and to know more about them?
Great question. Oh my God. Okay. In my course, and I'm not trying to pitch my course, but I'm just saying, I think it's like $20 or something. In the course, my module 9 is all about how to interview and vet web people. So, because it's so easy. So what I like to say about that is, first of all, have your project scope done. So you know exactly what you're doing. So for example, like I noticed, Farhad, that you do work with Drupal. So my team, we don't touch Drupal at all. So if someone sent me a scope and it said Drupal website, I'd be immediately pass. Even if we're amazing, like I wouldn't read that scope because we don't do that. So making sure that you have your project organized, you know what you want, you have it organized, what skills you're going to need. let's just say you want, someone who works with HubSpot, for example. We do a lot of requests for HubSpot integration for web forms and CRM, right? If I didn't know how to use HubSpot, I shouldn't take that job. So make sure that you have your document of specs organized first, so that as you're interviewing, you're only looking for people. First of all, the first rule of screening is, do they have the technical ability to even do what you want to do, right? Like, let's just say that you host with AWS, like with Amazon. Well, if a dev team doesn't know how to use AWS, you don't want to pay for their learning curve. I mean, you can. Like, some clients are like, yeah, you figure it out, no worries, no problem. But if you don't want to pay for their learning curve, make sure you know that you're reading someone whose profile says AWS. Second thing that I like is really important to me is their time zone. Personally, I won't work with anyone who's within like a 3 or 4 hour difference of my time zone. It drives me insane to be getting emails while I'm eating dinner. I go ballistic. Like, and it's my fault. I hired them. It's my fault. But if they're offline by my 6 a.m. and I can't talk to them until dinner time, it drives me insane. So making sure that, like, for me, like, even with my team, like, I won't hire someone who's not North or South America. And it's not like any sort of reason other than purely logistics of the schedule. So making sure that you know your time zone and what you're willing to support, because some people will hire someone from the Ukraine or India or Pakistan or the Philippines, and it's fantastic. You can get it way, way, way cheaper. But in the case of that, now you've got a bunch of logistical headaches because of time zone changes and cultural boundaries and language differences. And it's just, there's like a trade-off. So making sure that you know where you stand in terms of that. So let's assume that they're in the right time zone. They have the technical ability. What I like to do is to read the reviews. Read the reviews of the developer. But keeping in mind, reviews are kind of, you want to take them with a grain of salt. Because sometimes clients will judge very, very harshly because they didn't understand and they didn't take the time to understand, and the developer may have explained what was going on, but the client didn't get it. Anyway, so take them all with kind of a grain of salt, read the reviews. Check their work is another one. Mobile responsiveness is a huge, huge issue with website work. So when you read someone's, like when you review their website, like, because a lot of times when we're applying for work, like I know I do this, I'll send a link to a few websites that are similar to what my client's looking for that we've done, right? And then I expect that they're going to check it on mobile. So we can prove we know how to do responsive web development. So make sure, because everyone, and I know this because I've hired dozens of developers. Everyone's like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, of course, yeah. Everyone says it because they want the job. It doesn't mean it's true. So I make sure that when I'm interviewing someone new, I get them to send me their work. I test it across multiple browsers. I look at it on my phone, and it shows me, is it fast? Is it responsive? Check their work. Don't just take their word for it, right? Check their work. And then a variable that is more subjective but as important is, do you like this person? Because website projects can take a long time. Membership sites could take months. Like, I don't know about you, but depending on the complexity of the membership site, you could be working on this together for 3 to 6 months, right? And by the time you do the content and the design and the development and the QA and the maintenance, like, you could be working together for however long. I don't know how long it takes you, but it would take me at least 3 months to do a membership site. And you're talking to this person a lot. And so do you like each other? Like, do you have compatibility professionally? For example, for me, like, I have certain personality criteria that I look for when I hire someone that I need, that works for my personality. Like, I know that what I need, and I know what kind of people I work best with. And so that's an important consideration, because this person could be technically super strong, but if they drive you insane, that's important to consider that, because you're going to be in it. And website work is stressful. So you want to be with someone you actually enjoy them. So.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. And Natasha, like, how important do you think is domain knowledge? So for example, like, we will only work with membership websites and like association websites and nothing else pretty much. Like, if someone like offered me $1 million to actually build a restaurant website, I wouldn't take it. Exactly. So how important is domain knowledge, you think?
I think it matters as much as it matters to the client, because unlike you, my team and I, we have the technical ability to do anything. We personally like the variety of doing lots of different types of work for lots of different industries. So, but some clients really care. about that. And if I was going to do a membership site, I would, if I was an association, and I would love that. I love specialized knowledge, but I think if you're looking for someone who's awesome, then yeah, go to a specialist. But if you don't care about it being super awesome, then you can go to a generalist, right? Like to me, okay, I could do a membership site, but you do a better job than me. But technically we could do it, but you'd probably do it faster and better with more thoughtfulness and more intentionality about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Like we don't do Wix, we don't do Weebly, we don't touch certain things. It's not that we can't, it's just we don't like it. We just don't, so, but yeah, no, I think if you want the absolute, because the thing is specialists, they know how to do it the most cost-effective way. That's the difference. So it's like, I could do it, but your way is going to be, I was looking at my camera, I'm like, where are you on my camera? Your way, your client's going to have a much better experience in terms of scoping it and budgeting it. And it's, yeah, technically it could, but you're working with you is going to be way more efficient. And so I know I kind of didn't answer your question. It depends. It matters if it matters to the client. But yeah, if you're looking for specialized information, someone who's going to do it way more efficiently, knows how to price it, no surprises, hire a specialist. If you kind of don't care about efficiency and you just want someone to get it done and you're shopping on price, then yeah, like you don't need that, right? But the experience is going to be probably less enjoyable, less efficient.
Makes sense. We're running out of time, but I'll take one last question from the audience here. So Richard John is asking, what are some key things to consider when creating a tender document for a membership website? Tender document meaning RFP, which is
an RFP?
probably, yeah.
Let's go back to talking about RFPs. I'm not going to use the term RFP. I'm going to use the term project plan or project scope. Functionality for membership site, in my opinion, functionality clarity is the number one. Because functionality clarity is going to determine whether or not the team could use an existing tool or how much custom work is going to be required, if there's plugins required or JavaScript required or whatever. It's just, I would say for membership scoping is clarity among your stakeholders, among your team, among your users about what do you want it to do. Like membership sites design is usually less. Like it's usually like, I mean, if you might have a website that says, hey, log in, there's a little login at the top, and you might have this full website about whatever. But once they're inside, once they've logged in, that user experience, user interface that's the part that is really going to affect the price the most, from my experience. I mean, you might be able to answer that question better than me, but clarity from all stakeholders, what you need it to do, is what I would be looking for.
I think that's great. That's great. And just to add to that, like something that we look for is whenever we are building any function or feature like within a membership site, identify how does that function or feature like deliver value to the member? How does it deliver value to the organization, right? So if it is not like delivering value to both parties, then that functionality may not be needed and can be done at a future date. So,
exactly. Yeah, because I like to tell too, like I'll tell my clients, like in the scoping document, like you send me what you want, but I reserve the right to veto. So, but I like to know from the outset, what's the outcome? What are we trying to do? Like you said, what's the point? And then if there's another way to do it, or we can combine some functionality or do it a different way, then yeah, as long as we have a clear understanding of what are you trying to accomplish with this. And then obviously like all the regular website stuff like content and images and all that, but yeah.
Alrighty. So Natasha, we are running out of time. What would be your key takeaway for our audience today?
My key takeaway would be the reminder that this is not the Matrix, that we are not mind reading, and it's expensive to make us guess. So as the client hiring web people, you doing your part to be crystal clear about what you're looking for, and then talking to your tech people. And if you're not clear, hire someone to help you with discovery to get clear, but do not shop for tech support or web development until you know exactly what you want.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Already,
That's
Natasha,
my
I have a
philosophy.
no, for sure. This is great. So I have a personal question for you. Can you share
For
a
sure.
personal habit that has contributed the most to your success?
Personal habit?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Personal habit. Oh my god. I wake up early. I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. It's
Oh
just
no,
it's
don't
like the
tell me.
coffee, right?
Yeah.
But no, I I would say a personal habit honestly related to work is I would just say I'm just very direct in my communication, as you can tell. I expect I treat people with respect and professionalism, and I just find that creates a great team. They create team culture. I just find that's when I change that from trying to be nice, people pleasing, to being like direct, like actually explaining to my client how this is going to go and how they're going to get their money's worth. Things got better, and I was able to do a much better job, and everybody liked me more. So yeah, so directness, clarity in my communication. I would say clear communication is really, especially in tech, is a game changer.
Right. So how can people get in touch with you if they have any questions?
For sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. Happy to, but also honestly, for membership sites, Farhad is the guy. Talk to him. I'm just so honored to be able to be invited to share. I hope I wasn't too strong. I'm from the West Coast, so we say a lot of stuff that we probably shouldn't say. And but no, I'm just so grateful for what you're doing in the nonprofit space, Farhad, and anything more I can do to support you and your vision and your mission. Like happy to help. So.
Yeah, for sure, Natasha. It was so great to have you on our show. Like you were direct, but these were very important information that we needed to share.
I've been doing this for a long time. Like I know how to do my thing. So.
Alrighty, wonderful.
My pleasure.
Okay, so that is the episode with Natasha today. We all learned so much from this episode, and I hope you are taking notes. And what I tell all of our audience and our clients is that like we can go to webinars and podcasts and whatnot, but unless we execute on the ideas that we learn, nothing will ever happen. So the wonderful ideas that Natasha shared today, I hope you're able to apply them in your own like projects, in your own business, in your own organization. And we wish you all the best with your website project. That's it for today. Thank you so much. We will see you in a future episode. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.